Hello, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining on this beautiful Monday afternoon. The fog is starting to lit up. We are going to call the Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Ryan.
Here.
Alderwoman Velasquez. Alderman Browning. Chair Cone.
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. We have 3 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a rather lengthy agenda before us today, but I believe we have some appointments pending before the committee that I don't see them on the agenda, Madam Clerk. I will, but I want to make sure. We had some appointments that were referred to committee last Friday that at the end of the meeting on Friday I said we were taking up today. They're not listed on the.
Let me check with the clerk.
Sure. While we're following up with the clerk on that, we've got approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting, Monday, December 4th. I'll entertain a motion. That wasn't a motion.
Just a point of order real quick on that. There does need to be a correction to the minutes that I can see on the minutes from the 4th. It says that we did not establish a quorum. 5 members were present. So I would ask that we cure that however we need to.
Yeah, no, thank you, Alderman. I'll make note of that. So noted. I'll entertain a motion on the meeting minutes as revised.
I move that we pass the December 4th, 2023 minutes as amended.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velasquez. Aye. Alderman Browning. Chair Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. We have 3 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
I'm still checking on that.
Thank you. And that was the 6th ward. All right. Alderwoman from the 10th, are you okay if we hold while we're just getting confirmation from the clerk on that, and I can take up at least one of the first board bills, and then I'll get back to you. I know we had talked about it prior to the meeting. Item number 1 is Alderman Aldridge's bill, Board Bill 170.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Today, I stand in front of you to present Board Bill 170. If possible, Madam Clerk, could you read the summary of 170?
Board Bill number 170, introduced by Alderman Rasheed Aldridge, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a lease agreement between the City of St. Louis, Missouri, and the American River Transportation Company, LLC, for certain mooring rights in the Mississippi River under certain terms and conditions for a period of 10 years at a rate of $74,945 for the first year and increasing by 3% each year thereafter, with 3 mutual options to extend for 5 additional years as set forth in the lease agreement attached hereto as Exhibit A and containing a severability clause.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I know we have some people from the Port Authority who also be speaking on this, but this is a simple lease agreement extending for the American River Transportation Company to go into a lease agreement with some barge lines that sit on the north side of the Missouri River. It's been very popular and producing a lot of traction. And we wanted to just extend the lease agreement, and I will defer to the Port Authority to talk about Board Bill 170, which Board Bill 170 kind of goes in hand with 170.
Can you get our mic?
You're unmuted. You can talk.
Chairman Stone, committee members, I'm Roland Comfort with the Port. With me is James Morrow with the City Councilor's Office, and I think James can explain in more detail the lease.
We will need to swear you in.
They're city employees.
Okay.
Is there anyone there that's not part of the city staff, legal counsel, or anything?
No, everyone here is either Port Authority or city staff.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so as Alderman Aldrich noted, this is a lease agreement for an initial 10-year term. There are 3 mutual options to extend for 5 years, which brings the potential of this lease duration up to the 25-year maximum allowed under the charter. The lease is simply for fleeting. Essentially, is to operate a barge parking lot located around the foot of East Grand in the near north riverfront. This is to accommodate ADM's expansion efforts up by its grain elevator there. American River Transportation Company, abbreviated as ARTCO, is ADM's in-house barge line. So as the Alderman indicated, this kind of goes hand in hand with Board Bill 171, which is a lease agreement with ADM itself. The rent for this fleeting is just under $75,000 a year, increasing by 3% each year thereafter, which equals a rate of about $65 per linear foot, which is at the higher end of the Port Authority's market rates at this time. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
And also, I put in front of everybody kind of a visual of where this would be located, as well as the yearly rent.
Okay, we'll take questions from the committee. Madam Clerk, can you please excuse Alderwoman Spencer and Alderman Browning? And we'll take questions from Alderman
Will
Ryan.
do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman, I'm just looking at these 2 maps on 170, 171. Do these 2 lease agreements, do those parcels touch?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I was just trying to figure out if there was something in the middle of them there. And that's really more for my curiosity than anything else. I'm glad to hear that that we're treating the riverfront like we should, and we're getting decent market rate returns on these. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 170.
I move that we pass Board Bill 170 out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th Ward, seconded by the Alderman from the 6th Ward, that we pass Board Bill 170 out with a due pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velasquez. Chair Cone.
Aye.
We have 3 aye votes.
All right, with that vote, you sustain the motion to pass Board Bill 170 out with the due pass recommendation. Item number 2, related, is Board Bill 171.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Just like I stated, I'll also have the Port Authority expand on a little bit. 170 and 171 kind of goes. The 170 is more of the maintenance of the expansion rail access for the elevators that will be taking place on this riverfront. And with that, I'll kind of just let the Port Authority go more into detail.
Yes, so this is the companion legislation to Board Bill 170. They are two separate pieces of legislation comprising two separate lease agreements with the city, but they are ultimately for the same goal. Archer Daniels Midland, abbreviated as ADM, is in the process of expanding its grain elevator in the near north riverfront. They are extending track access to the elevator and desire to cross over a small portion of city property to enhance their rail line, which this lease would allow. It is also for a 10-year initial term, followed by 3 5-year mutual extensions at a square foot rate of about 35 cents per square foot, which again is up near the higher end of the Port Authority's market rate. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Do you have anything further, Alderman? Or?
No, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Any questions from the committee on Board Bill 171? Alderman Narayan?
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez?
No questions, thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill number 171.
I move that we pass Board Bill number 171 out with a due pass recommendation.
Second, call for previous roll.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th. There's been a call for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, Board Bill number 171 passes out with a due pass recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, is there any word from?
Yes, they're going to put them in a drive now, and they're going to bring them over shortly.
Wonderful. I guess in the interim, since they're uploaded to the drive, we can go ahead and have the Alderwoman from the 10th come and present on the appointments of the mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm here presenting the appointments to the Port Authority for the mayor's office. They are now in the drive. I'll just say the name. I know that we scheduled this last Friday, so time constraints, and we know they might not have been able to join us virtually, but I'm absolutely here on behalf of them. It's actually an honor to stand on behalf of them here to present them and hopefully get you all's support and approval on them. It's Mr. Matthew S. McBride, Ms. Joan Miller, Ms. Tawana Mason, and Mr. William K. Jr. But before I do that, I'm just going to take a little point of privilege. Mr. Chair, I hope you let me are okay with this, because I had a couple of people reach out to me and say, what is the Port Authority, right? And here on the day that you have two pieces of legislation as well as others that comes through this committee, I thought I would just share so that somebody might be able to watch and be clear on. The Port Authority promotes economic development in the city and acts as a good steward on the city's port facilities, and it provides and creates new and participates in ongoing redevelopment projects across the Port District. And in case people didn't know what the Port District was, right, we did just see Alderman Aldridge that presented, because he absolutely serves as alderperson for that. But we do have one of the largest Port Authority, second largest rather, inland port systems in the United States, and it's the Port of Metropolitan St. Louis is located in the heart of a 15-mile stretch of the Mississippi River that has become known as the Ag Coast of America. It's something to be proud of, right? A 15-barge transfer facility and a total capacity can handle up to 150 barges a day, which is the highest level of capacity anywhere along the Mississippi River. This is something for St. Louis to be proud of, right? So I was just sharing that since we had a second here to make sure that you all absolutely have their bios. in your drives. And again, hopefully that you all will be able to support moving forward on these reappointments and appointments by the mayor's office.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I agree. I appreciate you taking that point of personal privilege. It's always awesome to hear some of the facts around the Port Authority. It is the third largest inland port in the entire United States. It is one of the busiest inland ports, and it does provide a huge amount of economic impact to our city and our region, and certainly has the ability to provide even more. And I'm happy that our Port Authority folks are here to hear those accolades.
Yeah.
So I have in front of me the reappointments, and all of them are reappointments. So they're all currently serving members of the Port Authority. In my capacity as chair, I also have the opportunity to serve on the Port Authority with all of these individuals, Mr. McBride, Mr. Kay, Ms. Miller, and Ms. Mason, all of whom have done exemplary work and working with the Port Authority, the staff, and asking the questions that need to be asked. And so certainly appreciate you standing here before us today to take any questions from the committee with respect to these appointments as well. Alderman Narayan.
I don't have any questions. I'd just like to. I know it's tricky to get people to volunteer their time and energy to serve on these various committees, and want to thank these individuals for not just having previously served, but for being willing to serve again. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Similarly, no questions, but want to thank the Alderwoman and the Alder Lady from the 10th for coming up here and presenting and sharing some facts that I didn't know before today. But also want to thank the folks who are on this list for reappointment for their service to the city. It is no easy feat to do this work and also volunteer. So that's all I've got.
Wonderful. I will entertain a motion on the mayor's appointments, or reappointments rather, to the St. Louis City Port Authority.
I move to.
Do we have to, I'm sorry, do we have to state each individual name? The appointments, I thought normally.
So I believe the Alderwoman did earlier. We don't have to vote them out individually unless someone wants to divide the question, but we can. Yeah, so I think since they're all reappointments as well, we can go ahead and make the motion to reappoint the mayor's nominations to the Port Authority.
So noted.
Second.
So I move to reappoint these folks to the Port Authority with due pass recommendation.
Okay. So it's been moved by the Alderman from the 6th that we accept the mayor's appointments to the St. Louis Port Authority for their reappointments that will expire November 22nd, 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 4th. There's been a motion for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, motion passes. The individuals nominated by the mayor to the Port Authority have been moved to the full board for full consideration and support.
Thank you. Abba.
All right, and back to our regular agenda items. Next on the list, we have several items related to the airport. Item number 3 is Board Bill number 186. And actually, before we take those items up, I just would like to ask for city staff that they just hopped off. I'm going to make a note to follow up with the Port Authority. If we're here in person, I believe they should be here in person to answer any questions and make their presentations. And if there's individuals that aren't able to due to extenuating circumstances, then they can follow up with the clerk. But I will make sure that that is known. So Board Bill 183, or I'm sorry, 186.
Good afternoon, Chairman Cohn and committee members. First, I want to send regards from our airport director. She could not join us today. She had a conflict. She had to travel for an airport conference, I believe in the DC area. But I will present Board Bill 186. I'm the Airport Deputy Director of Finance and Administration, Antonio Strong. I'll give you a little background about this board bill before I present it. Since 2008, the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission has overseen a program that provides funds for the purpose of studying or promoting domestic or international scheduled commercial air service, the promotion of aviation in the state of Missouri, or to assist airports participating in a federally funded air service program supporting interstate scheduled commercial service. So the funds for this activity are collected from proceeds from jet fuel and aviation fuel taxes. So grant funds were awarded to 9 commercial airports in the Missouri state of Missouri. The grant award for St. Louis totaled $538,889. However, we are required to supply a 10% match of $53,889. So the net amount of this grant fund we will receive is up to $485,000. So this grant money will be used on a number of initiatives to promote St. Louis Lambert International Airport as an airport of choice and the St. Louis region as an attractive destination for both domestic and international airlines. And this ordinance authorizes the city to enter into that airport aid agreement with the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission to reimburse the city up to $485,000 for direct costs incurred by the city for marketing and the promotion of our air service program at the airport. And at this point in time, I would like to respectfully request your approval for this proposed board bill.
Okay, any questions from the committee of Antonio relating to Board Bill number 186? Alderman Narayan.
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. One question, is there a marketing plan already lined out for this? And
Yeah, so it's for any marketing plans for our air service development department. So we have an air service development department that's headed by Brian Kinsey at St. Louis Lambert Airport. So they have a number of plans throughout the year for marketing. For example, one of the things that you see is if you're sitting in front of your television, you might see a commercial for Arkansas. And you're probably wondering, well, why am I seeing something for Arkansas in the state of Missouri? But that's their marketing plan. So some of those marketing dollars will be trying to catch areas that are within 3 hours distance of a drive from St. Louis. So for example, like a Joplin, you'll see marketing in that area, Peoria, Springfield. So we'll have marketing that will occur in advertising in those areas to catch those potential passengers to come to St. Louis and travel in St. Louis.
and where internationally are you targeting? Do you know?
I'm sorry?
Where internationally are you targeting?
Well, so internationally, that is just a matter of trying to get more international travel. So the specifics of that will be with Brian Kinsey. He attends several different seminars and conferences throughout the year to try to market airlines who come to St. Louis, like we were, successful with the Lufthansa Airlines a couple of years ago. But that's a continuous program that some of these funds will go towards, is trying to market to get international travel and international carriers.
Great, thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, I thought the Alderman from the 14th was still here. I'll make a motion that we pass Board Bill 186 out with the due pass recommendation.
Second, previous roll.
Is there any objection to previous roll? All right. Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 186 passes out with the due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda is item number 4, Board Bill 187.
So again, Antonio Strong, Airport Deputy Director, Finance Administration. I will also give you a little bit of background on this. So this is an annual request per our bond indenture and airport use agreement with. We are required to perform an annual $13.7 million transfer from our Airport Debt Service Stabilization Fund to the Airport Revenue Fund. This is performed on an annual basis to help us maintain a healthy debt service coverage ratio of 1.25 or better. So that debt service coverage ratio is basically the net revenues less our expenses that are on hand to cover the amount of our annual debt service. So our annual debt service averages about anywhere between 50 million or 60 million. So prior to requesting this approval, we do have to request approval from the comptroller. We do also take this forward to the Airport Commission. The current balance in the debt service stabilization funds after appropriations is about 22.4 million. And I'll just read the actual board bill. So this board bill is authorizing the transfer of 13.7 million from the Airport Debt Service Stabilization Fund to the Airport Revenue Fund to make funds available to mitigate rates in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. This is in accordance with the Airport Use and Lease Agreement made effective July 1, 2016, and therefore amended afterwards. And at this point in time, I would like to respectfully request your approval for this transfer of funds.
Any questions on Board Bill number 187?
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
No questions, thank you.
With that, hearing no other questions, I will make a motion that we pass Board Bill 187 out with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Oh, I just made the motion.
Second.
Previous roll.
All right. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, Board Bill 187 passes out with a due pass recommendation. Next on the list is Board Bill number 188.
Okay, good afternoon again, Chairman Cohn and committee members. We had some exciting news that was released in October. We have been working with the airlines for approximately about 8 to 9 months, trying to move forward a potential consolidated terminal project. In October, we were able to negotiate with our airlines for an approval of about $330 million for 7 projects that will help us move forward on several initiatives in our master plan and the potential consolidated terminal project. This is a draft bill authorizing the Public Works and Improvement Program at the airport, consisting of complex airfield structures, other airport improvements, including the acquisition of certain equipment and vehicles. We have a list entitled the Fiscal Year 2024 Project List. Total cost of these projects is $331.6 million, and you will actually hear another board bill that will be presented later for bond sale of about $256.8 million that we will ask for your approval. At this point in time, I would like to respectfully request your approval of this board bill.
Questions from the committee? Alderman Narayan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
No questions.
I am actually just pulling up Exhibit 8 here real quick to make sure I don't have any additional questions or concerns. So this is the demolition of the Air National Guard, the relocation of the air maintenance field, design of new central utility plant, the construction of the new central utility plant, program management services, design construction, and de-icing the west pad. Is that
yes
accurate? Okay. Okay, I don't have any further questions. I know in the Airport Commission, we had discussions around the placement of all of these items to be kind of in line with the new terminal plan that we're working through. So appreciate the diligence on everyone's part to keep those things in mind, and as we move forward towards a new Lambert St. Louis International Airport terminal. All right, with that, I'll make a motion that we pass Board Bill 188 out with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th, and request from previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, Board Bill 188 passes out with a due pass recommendation. Thank you. Board Bill number 201.
So Board Bill 201, I would like to introduce, joining us virtually is our Airport Deputy Director, Engineering. His name is Jerry Beckman, and he will present Board Bill 201.
Hey, Jerry.
Hello, Alderman. Good afternoon, Chairman Cohn and committee members. Yes, I'm Jerry Beckman. I'm the airport's Deputy Director for Planning and Development. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Okay, so I'm here to request your approval of Board Bill 201, authorizing the airport to utilize a construction manager at risk, or CMAR, project delivery method for specific components of our modernization program. During the course of our master plan, the airport, for various reasons, considered our project delivery method for constructing the recommended improvements. The City of St. Louis most commonly utilizes a traditional design, bid, build methodology for contracting of public improvements. The schedule being negotiated with our airlines and suggested by the master plan necessitated the airport's review of other methods. CMAR has been utilized by numerous other large airport programs around the country and was selected as our preferred project delivery method. This method allows us to have a separate contract with the program designers and aligns best with the city's established means of contracting. All city requirements for minority and disadvantaged contracting will remain in place and be reviewed by our typical agencies. After selecting a CMAR through the Board of Public Services Request for Qualifications methodology, the airport will be able to collaborate with the CMAR regarding numerous design and phasing consideration of the bid packages contributing to the Consolidated Terminal Program. Ultimately, we will negotiate a guaranteed maximum price with the selected CMAR or CMARs for the designated improvements. This results in more price certainty for the program. I'd like to thank the committee for their consideration of this board bill and request your approval of Board Bill 201.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll entertain questions from the committee. Alderman Narayan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
No questions.
All right. I thought that might be the case. Jerry, I've actually gotten quite a few conversations, emails, et cetera, about this particular board bill. Since it is a new kind of design engineering, project management process, I'll call it, that we're going to be deploying specifically for the airport. To be clear, it's not for all procurement, design, build processes in the city, just related to the airport. But can you maybe just lean into, I know you gave a bit of an overview here, but can you get into more details around CMAR and how that differentiates from design build practices in general, and why that it's advantageous in this situation?
Sure. Well, so and we worked quite a bit with the President's Office at the Board of Public Service to make sure that this made sense for everybody. So, it's most typical for the city to hire a designer and then design something to 100% and then go to bid at that point to ascertain a low bidder for a particular project or improvements. That has the risk associated with it of, not one, you're not in contact a whole lot with the folks that are actually bidding the type of work and maybe collaborating with them on the best way to stage and phase things and getting price advantages advantages there, or taking a look at the best way to kind of stage the program throughout your project site and so on, or even material selections. So this the CMAR has the ability to work with the airport in this case to give us that advantage. We also the CMAR program, we have our own contract with the designer or designers of these improvements. Another methodology that was looked at is design build. I think one of the reasons we are less comfortable with that is that we give up control really of having a contract directly with the designer, who typically represents 10 or 15% of the project cost. And the contractor, it feels like, has more of a sway in those discussions. And I think it's important to the airport and the city that we maintain that condition of having a greater level of trust and involvement with the designer itself. There's also a more sophisticated methodology called integrated project delivery, wherein the owner and the architect and the contractor are kind of all in one joint contract together. That I think is just too large a step for the airport and the city to take on at this point. But I do think, and we've got support from our airlines for looking at the CMAR as well. So that they've used it in numerous spots successfully in numerous stations, and we've got really good feedback on that. So I hope that answers your question to a large degree.
It does. Just a couple follow-up questions. So would this circumvent the requirement around going with the lowest bidder through the RFP process, or would that still be part of the procurement process?
So in a way, it circumvents it. You have a construction manager at risk. He has a kind of a broad-based contract, and then the construction manager at risk bids out particular packages of work, be it the electrical or mechanical or whatever seems to make the most sense as we proceed through design. But then, there's still a requirement that the CMAR then, initiate a contract with the lowest responsive bidder, as continues to be the case.
Okay. And then are there examples of where we've used CMAR in civil projects in the St. Louis metro area?
I've seen it more at other airport locations. I do know some school districts have used it successfully in the St. Louis area, especially out in some of the St. Charles County school districts. Their name doesn't come to me off the top of my head.
If you could forward me any, local jurisdictions that may be utilizing this approach, I would appreciate it. And then,
Chairman Cohn, can you hear me?
hi, I believe we have the Director of Airports on the line.
I just stepped out. I'm sorry, I got in. I can tell you that the MLS stadium was built with it, the one here in St. Louis. So they did the CMAR process. And I believe, and I will have to validate, I believe there were parts of another recent large project at Cortex that was also done, but I can confirm that. I know the MLS stadium was.
Okay. For those of you on the line that may not be familiar with the voice, that is the Director of Airports calling in remotely, always good to have her presence on these calls. I feel like Fraser Crane. I'm listening. So in addition to that, are there any, would this circumvent any of the city's standards with respect to, or the airport standards with respect to WBE, MBE participation, prevailing wage, any of those items?
No, absolutely not.
No. Yeah.
Sorry, Jerry. Chairman Cohn, this is Rhonda again. No, absolutely not. All of those things must be adhered to. We were very specific about that and very specific about that when we met with the Board of Public Service and when we met with the mayor's team, that all of those things would be adhered to. It's really just the process of being able, and this is a large ask on behalf of the airlines. You know, we're asking the airlines at this point to commit to about $2.8 billion. And obviously that amount will be validated if we move forward with design at various levels to make sure that that is the right amount. And with a project this size, in past years before the CMAR project or the CMAR process became very relevant, especially within airport builds, they were always going over budget. They never seemed to be able to maintain what the set price was in projects across the country. When CMAR was introduced a number of years ago, specifically for large projects like these airport builds, which are in the billions of dollars, the airlines stood up very strongly and said, we've got to have a different process. We can't agree to these things, be halfway through the build, and then our price escalated or ballooned another $300, $400, $500 million. So the airlines themselves, this has been on their term sheet since day one when we started talking about the potential terminal bill, that we have to look at a method that they're comfortable with. This has been proven at a number of airports in the country. When you get to those design phases and you get a guaranteed maximum price, the airlines have a comfort level then that they know what they're going to be spending, because again, they pay for the bulk of the cost of this airport. And so I think that was a critical component that we had to look at when we were considering this alternative method.
Okay. Thank you, Rhonda. Your phone is breaking up just a little bit at the end there, but I think we were to all hear what you're saying there. But more as a heads up, there was a little background noise for the last few seconds there. Thank you for that. And so this is a request from the airport or the airlines that'll be paying a huge chunk of the rebuild costs of the terminal if and when we get to that place, which of course I think is for many of us here. And then with respect to the method, what I'm hearing is that the method provides for greater flexibility in terms of the design part of the process and ownership on the part of the airport and the airlines, so that we don't get 50% of the way through the project and have issues with design and have to go back and revisit that whole thing and have cost overruns and things of that nature. The other item that was brought up in your remarks, Rhonda, if we could just get some clarification there. So there's an overall budget that would be assigned. Are there goals where there's greater payouts to the construction manager at risk if they meet those goals? I'm trying to recall some of the Interstate 64, the old Highway 40 project when it was going on, because I think that they deployed the design build technique or method when they went through the construction process for rebuilding Highway 40, the new Interstate 64. Oh.
I'm sorry, there's a crowd of people walking through the Academy of Sciences.
Oh, yeah, we can tell.
So I don't believe, and I'll let Jerry specify that, I don't believe there are payouts. You have to remember, in the case of the I-64, MoDOT was paying for that. In this case, the airlines are paying. So it's a little different scenario than what the build was on I-64. Jerry, you can maybe be more specific. I don't believe there's a clause in there for payouts. Again, it's based on what the airline said is a guaranteed maximum price. So that's a little different scenario.
Yes, that's correct, Rhonda. It's not our intent that there would be bonuses or incentives for the contractors in this case. That would be very inconsistent with how the city operates, and that is not in the board bill.
Okay, thank you. So is there, if we were to hold this, because I am getting feedback from folks and questions, is this something that has to pass out today in order to meet any type of funding deadlines or, process deadlines, things of that nature? Or would we be okay holding this for another week or two for further questions? Although I think I got most of my questions answered.
Chairman Cohen, I do think that would be a challenge based on the airlines. The airlines know that we've put this forward. They've been following every step of the way, both at the Airport Commission and the Board of Public Service, and now obviously in front of the TNC committee. This is a very, very strong desire of theirs. And I think, we are getting to kind of the end of our negotiations. This is one of those outstanding items that they like to see all the T's and I's crossed and through the process. So I think any delay in that could affect our ability to try and wrap up our overall negotiations on this third amendment, which would come to obviously this board as well, along with the ability to go out for the architectural design this fall. So we have a lot of dual tracks we're running to get not only the agreement from the airlines for this third amendment through, but making sure that all of the other processes along the way are also covered. So it would be our ask that we not delay it, because I think that could send a signal to the airline, a negative signal, and that would be a concern for me.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rhonda, for the clarification. Any further questions from the committee? Alderman Narayan.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion that we pass Board Bill 201 out of committee with a do pass recommendation.
Second, previous roll.
It's been moved by myself, seconded by the alderman from the 4th. There's been a request for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, Board Bill number 201 passes out of committee with a do pass recommendation. Item number 7 on the agenda is Board Bill 207. It looks like it's our last agenda item. Who will be presenting on that today?
Good afternoon, Chairman Cohn again, and committee members.
Mr. Strong.
Antonio Strong, Airport Deputy Director of Finance Administration. So this, as I mentioned, was directly related to Board Bill number 1. Board Bill 188 was a public works approval. Now this will be your request for bond approval. So we had 7 projects total. 6 of those projects will be funded with bonds. So we work with the Comptroller's office to put together a team to issue the bonds. And we have with us today, we actually might have several members of the bond team virtually with us. But we want to present to you a presentation. You actually have a copy of the presentation in front of you, a paper copy. But we'll also have David Stenfel. He's one of our municipal advisors from Sieber Williams Shank, and he will present this presentation to you for the potential issuance of bonds.
Okay. Before they proceed, Madam Clerk, we'll need to swear both of them in.
Could you please raise your right hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I saw his name, Clarence. Are you also planning on providing input?
I don't believe so, but if you'd like for me to get sworn in, Alderman, I can.
If you're not planning to testify, it's not necessary. I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Cohn, as well as the fellow aldermen and alderwomen on the Transportation and Commerce Committee. May I share my screen for a moment?
You may.
Here with me 1 second. I will just, I believe that you have this presentation in front of you as well, but I figured it might be easiest to follow along here as well. My name is David Stinfield, and I serve as Managing Director at Siebert Williams Shank, which is a locally based financial services firm, and we've served as financial advisor to the airport for a number of years. As Director or Deputy Director Strong mentioned, I'll be here to present Board Bill number 207 and this presentation associated with it, and I'll be happy to answer any questions throughout the presentation or at the end as you prefer. As you mentioned as well, the Loop team is here as well. They served as Senior Manager of the 2023 financing and are serving as Joint Senior Manager on this upcoming financing. I think Clarence Bourne as well as Iris Melkinson, both Managing Directors at Loop, are here as well with me. Just going on to page 1 of the presentation, although the Board Bill 207 is for approval for $320 million and not to exceed amount $320 million, we are conservatively estimating that the total amount of PAR issued by the city and airport will be likely substantially lower than that. But we have to provide the $320 million number just as a potential not to exceed number based on potential interest rate movements throughout the course of the financing, which we don't anticipate happening, but I would call it the tail end of the bell curve in terms of the potential probability of it happening. More than likely, the city and airport will issue much less in terms of the par amount of bonds. The bonds will be used as noted on this page to finance about $257 million of projects. It'll include demoing the Missouri Air National Guard facility, relocating the airfield maintenance facility, some new central utility plant design and construction, some other program management services, as well as the West de-icing pad, as was previously mentioned. If I move to the page 2, we get into a little bit more detail about the actual financing. And here, there's a lot of information on this page, but I guess the most simple way of looking at it is there's 2 scenarios that we're showing here, both using very conservative assumptions. But before going into those assumptions, I'll just talk a little bit about the airport's current outstanding debt, because I think it's important to contextualize what's shown on this page. The airport has
Can I just interject for just a moment here? I do want to make folks aware that I have a 3 o'clock time boundary here. So if you can provide that context within a limited frame, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely, Chair. Sorry about that. So the short version is that we anticipate that the airport will likely issue about $270 million worth of PAR to finance the aforementioned projects. Assuming that the airport is able to obtain a surety policy, which it has done in its prior bond issuances to fund the reserve fund requirement, we'd likely be able to reduce the PAR amount by about $23 million, which would reduce the PAR amount to about $246 million, shown on the upper right table of this page. We also anticipate that by issuing with a surety policy, the airport might be able to save about $60 million in debt service. So right now we're assuming conservative numbers, but we anticipate that the final issuance might come into that $250 to $270 million range. I know interest rates have been volatile over the past several months, and we anticipate that if rates increase or decrease by about 25 basis points, and that's sort of the amount that the Fed has moved rates in lockstep over the past several months, that a 25 basis point increase would increase or decrease total debt service by about $5 to $7 million. I move to the final page of this presentation. We anticipate that the bonds will be priced likely around April 17th, with anticipated closing 2 weeks later on May 1st. And also towards the bottom of the page, we have a bit of information about the makeup of the team. About a little over half of the team has a St. Louis presence, and about a little over half the team as well are minority and women-owned firms. In the interest of time, forgive me, moves through this information pretty quickly, but I'll pause there to take any questions or ask, the deputy director if he has any additional comments he'd like me to make.
Mr. Strong. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say you do not?
I said I do not. I do not have additional comments.
Are there questions from members of the committee? Alderman Narayan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
No questions, thank you.
I think you did a wonderful job on the presentation. No questions from anyone. I appreciate the overview and everyone's time. I know this is the last board bill on a very lengthy agenda today, so appreciate you all sticking through the meeting to be here with us. Since there are no further questions from the committee, I will entertain a motion on Board Bill 207.
I move that we pass Board Bill 207 out with two pass recommendation.
Second, call for previous roll.
Been moved by the alderman from the 4th Ward, seconded by the alderwoman from the 6th Ward. There's been a call for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing, seeing none, Board Bill 207 passes out with a due pass recommendation. I want to thank both you and Mr. Solinaro for making the trek here to City Hall today. Appreciate your time, and thank you both for joining virtually and giving us that wonderful overview. That concludes all of the new business that is on the agenda for the Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting. We don't have any further items for review. Discussion amongst the committee, I just want to call out real quickly, I did send an email out, I believe, Friday with an invitation to tour the convention center and the progress that's being made over there with its reconstruction. So if you haven't seen the email, I would encourage you to do so, and if you're able to attend, please do so, and that's for members of the committee. Otherwise, Madam Clerk, I think I already noted that Alderwoman Browning requested to be excused for necessary absence today, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 4th. Is there a call for previous roll? Yeah. There's been an objection to previous roll. Okay, it's been withdrawn. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, we stand adjourned.